Have you ever wondered how some people can stay insanely consistent with their rucking training, through bad weather, busy weeks, or low motivation, while others flame out after a few hard efforts? Today we're breaking down the lessons of legendary Coach John Wooden to reveal the mindset that keeps you progressing long after the excitement wears off. You'll learn how to build discipline that actually sticks, how to stop comparing yourself to other ruckers, and how to fall in love with the process so you never stall out again. You're listening to the Rucker's Edge podcast, a show all about rucking that is designed to help you improve your rucking routine, lose weight, and ultimately gain your strength and energy back. Each episode dives into the science, stories, and strategies behind rucking. You'll learn from top ruckers, coaches, and health and fitness experts who break down what it takes to train smarter, recover faster, and stay ready for the next challenge. So whether you're new to rucking or an experienced rucker that's already logged hundreds of miles, this is the show for you. I'm your host, Spencer. Thanks for listening in. Today we're doing something different. I'm trying out a new format for the show, and I've been wanting to do this for a while. I read a book recently that was surprisingly loaded with very valuable rucking advice. The book was titled Wooden, A Lifetime of Observations and Reflections on and Off the Court. In the book, Coach John Wooden shares his personal philosophy on achievement, success, and excellence, and he offers lessons and wisdom that he learned throughout his career at UCLA and his life as a dedicated husband, father, and teacher. In case you're unfamiliar with Coach John Wooden, he was the head basketball coach at UCLA between 1948 and 1975. During his stint as head coach over there, he won 10 NCAA national championships, including a crazy streak of 7 titles in 8 years, and he captured an 88-game win streak and multiple undefeated seasons. Coach Wooden was named the College Basketball Coach of the Year a whopping 6 times, and became the first person inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame as both a player and a coach. He was also awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2003. What struck me instantly while reading this book was how directly his teachings translate to rucking. Now, I'm not talking metaphorically, like literally. They transfer literally over to ruckers. I highlighted what I considered to be the top 11 takeaways from the book that will benefit you, the listener, and help you improve your rucking and mindset. So today you're going to hear Wooden's own words, and then we're going to interpret them through the lens of a rucker trying to become the best version of themselves. So for the next 30 minutes, let's imagine that you are one of his players, but instead of a basketball, you're carrying a rucksack. Let's think, what would he teach you? What habits would he demand from you? What standards would he expect from you? And what mindset would he refuse to compromise on? Let's begin where Wooden begins, with the rule he learned from his dad, the rule he demanded every single day of his life. So lesson number 1. Don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses. And this is the second set of 3s that his father gave to him. He says, my father had what he calls his 2 sets of 3s. They were direct and simple rules aimed at how he felt we should conduct ourselves in life. The first set was about honesty. Never lie, never cheat, never steal. My brothers and I knew what it meant and that he expected us to abide by it. The second set of 3s was about dealing with adversity, and this is what applies to ruckers. Don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses. This is Wooden's baseline, not advanced level, not championship level, just baseline. Because the moment you start whining, complaining, or making excuses, you've stopped learning. You've shut down the door on growth. And rucking discomfort is guaranteed. There's no scenario where you get stronger without dealing with pain and fatigue. If Wooden was coaching you, he would look at you at mile 7 when your feet hurt, your pack is pulling back, and your shoulders are burning out. And he wouldn't say, oh, poor thing, bless your heart. He would say, this is feedback, use it. Every blister, every hot spot, every slow pace, every bad training day, that's data, that's information, that's instruction. Complaining blocks the lesson. If Wooden coached you, he'd tell you, be a student of your struggles. Essentially, learn from your mistakes. All right, lesson number 2. Coach Wooden views success as doing our best to become our best. Wooden writes, my dad had great influence on my own personal definition of success, and it has little to do with fortune or fame. Although I probably didn't really understand it at the time, one of the things he tried to get across to me was that I should never try to be better than someone else. Then he always added, "But Johnny, never cease trying to be the best you can be. That is under your control. The other is not. You have little say over how big or how strong or how smart or rich someone else may be. You do have, at least you should have, control of yourself and the effort you give toward bringing out your best in whatever you're doing. This effort must be total, and when it is, I believe you have achieved personal success. The concept that success is mine when I work my hardest to become my best, and that I alone determine whether I do so, became central to my life and affected me in a most profound manner. Try your hardest in all ways, and you are a success. Do less than that, and you have failed to one degree or another." And then later on in the book, he outlines his definition of success, and it is, "Success is peace of mind that is the direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. Furthermore, only one person can ultimately judge the level of your success. You." Think about that for a moment. I believe that is what true success is. Anything stemming from that success is simply a byproduct, whether it be the score, the trophy, a national championship, fame, or fortune. So again, Wooden had the clearest definition of success. Read that again. Peace of mind. Not the trophies, not pace, not Instagram posts. Peace. If Wooden coached you, he wouldn't care about your 12-mile ruck time. He would only care about whether you became your best. You can't control the genetics of the guy next to you. You can't control the weather. You can't control the conditions of the trails. But you can control your effort. And Wooden would measure you only by that. This view of success is exactly why I like the self-evaluation function in the Garmin Connect app. That's where I track my rucks. It makes me really gauge if the workout was truly a success or not. I mean, sure, some people could also measure success by just showing up and, staying consistent. But really, I like to gauge my workouts by level of effort. And if I didn't mark the level of effort as hard, was it really a successful effort for me? Okay, lesson number 3. The journey is the end. Learn to love the process. Wooden says, "Some people wondered how I would endure working in such a minutely detailed, persistent, and arduous manner day after day, week after week, for years on end. I could tell them only this: I love it." It was as Cervantes described. Cervantes was a 14th century Spanish writer, and this is my favorite Wooden line in the entire book. He says, "For me, the journey was the end. The practice and the planning and the drills were my journey, and I loved it." And I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson that coined the phrase, "It's not the destination, it's the journey." That is totally what Wooden is talking about here. The end is the destination, the place of rest. Wooden is saying the work is the destination. This is the heart of rucking. Rucking is not glamorous, flashy. It's quiet, simple, repetitive, and quite frankly, humbling. You don't show up to ruck for medals. You show up for who you become along the way. And Wooden would force you to fall in love with, tying down the pack, taping up your feet, warming up before each ruck, your best mile, your worst mile, finishing when you're tired, logging your training when you finish, and then showing up the next day to do it all over again. Also, this mindset is what keeps ruckers consistent for decades. Most people burn out because they treat training like a transaction. I suffer now so I can enjoy later. To most people, that's unstable. Wooden treated training like a relationship. He loved the craft, and people who love the craft don't quit. They train when tired, when busy, when things feel slow, and when life gets messy. Because training isn't separate from life, it is life. Lesson 4. Details create success. And this is where Wooden becomes a rucking coach without even knowing it. This passage comes from a chapter called Details Create Success. He poses a question: how can I become an optimist? And the answer is proper preparation and attention to details. He continues, "I believe in the basics, attention to and perfection of tiny details that might commonly be overlooked. They may seem trivial, perhaps even laughable to those who don't understand, but they aren't. They are fundamental to your progress in basketball, business, and life. They are the difference between champions and near champions. For example, at the first squad meeting each session held 2 weeks before our first actual practice, I personally demonstrated how I wanted players to put on their socks each and every time. Yeah, literally he's teaching his players how to dress themselves, how to put their socks on. This is serious. I'm not making this up. This is what he did. He said, carefully roll the socks down over the toes, ball of the foot, the arch, and around the heel. Then pull the sock up snug so there will be no wrinkles of any kind. I would then have the players carefully check with their fingers for any folds or creases in the socks, starting at the toes and sliding the hand along the side of and under the foot, smoothing the sock out as the fingers passed over it. I paid special attention to the heel because that is where wrinkles were most likely to occur. I would watch as the players smoothed the socks under and along the back of the heel. I wanted it done conscientiously, not quickly or casually. I wanted absolutely no folds, wrinkles, or creases of any kind on the sock. Then we would proceed to the other foot and do the same. I would demonstrate for the players and then have the players demonstrate it for me. This may seem like a nuisance, but I had a very practical reason for being meticulous about this. Wrinkles, folds, and creases can cause blisters. Blisters interfere with performance during practice and games. Since there was a way to reduce blisters, something the player and I could control, it was our responsibility to do it. Otherwise, we would not be doing everything possible to prepare in the best way. I mean, if you've rucked once, you know that blisters can absolutely destroy a ruck. So, yeah, a spot on, Coach Wooden. Nailed it. He continues later on, he says, these seemingly trivial matters, taken together and added to many, many other so-called trivial matters, build into something very big, namely your success. You will find that success and attention to detail, the smallest details, usually go hand in hand, in basketball and elsewhere in your life. When you see a successful individual, a champion, a winner, you can be very sure that you are looking at an individual who pays great attention to the perfection of minor details. Imagine this man watching you put your socks on before a long ruck. He'd stop you, he'd say, do it again, because he knows blisters don't happen at mile 9. They happen in the first 5 seconds when you've rushed your sock onto your foot. You know what he would absolutely love? Foot care, anti-chafe, proper pack adjustment, progressive loading, pacing discipline, hydration prep, logging miles, strength training, mobility, and absolutely recovery routines. And this reminds me, my grandfather used to coach baseball. He was another great coach. And he always told his players, perfect practice makes perfect. This fits right into this chapter. Do everything the right way. If you do that, the results will take care of themselves. Okay, lesson 5, intentness. So one of the things Coach Wooden is famous for is his pyramid of success. The pyramid of success is basically his philosophy on achieving success. It emphasizes the importance of hard work, integrity, and teamwork. And one of the blocks within the pyramid of success is intentness. And in the book he says, I could say intentness means determination. I could say it means persistence. I could say it means tenacity or perseverance. I will say it is the ability to resist temptation and stay the course, to concentrate on your objective with determination and resolve. Impatience is wanting too much too soon. Intentness doesn't involve wanting something. It involves doing something. The road to real achievement takes time, a long time. But you do not give up. You may have setbacks, you may have to start over, you may have to change your method, you may have to go around or over or under, you may have to back up and get another start. But you don't quit. You stay the course. To do that, you must have intentness. If Coach Wooden were coaching ruckers, he'd say, don't skip training just because you're tired. Don't add weight too fast because you're impatient. Don't stop because it's cold. Don't drop a plan because progress feels slow. Stay the course. Stay the course. This is one of the hardest things for beginners. Everyone wants results. Very few want intentness. But intentness is the difference between I tried rucking once and rucking changed my life. Okay, I've never said the word intentness more in my life. I'm just going to stop and move on. All right, lesson 6. Never fear failure. It's the only route to success. This lesson comes from a chapter called Winners Make the Most Mistakes. He said, "My coach at Purdue, Piggy Lambert, constantly reminded us, the team that makes the most mistakes will probably win. That may sound a bit odd, but there is a great deal of truth in it. The doer makes mistakes. Coach Lambert taught me that mistakes come from doing, but so does success. The individual who is mistake-free is also probably sitting around doing nothing, and that's a very big mistake." So this translates to, don't shy away from a challenge. Learn from shortcomings through that challenge and improve so you succeed next time in the future. If winning coach rucking, your mistakes would look like starting too fast, getting blisters, carrying too much weight, carrying too little weight, mismanaging hydration, overtraining, undertraining. And this is all feedback. Wooden would say mistakes are the price of admission. Just learn from those mistakes, adjust in the future, and then achieve success. Lesson 7. Self-control creates peak performance. Wooden says, you cannot function physically or mentally unless your emotions are under control. That is why I did not engage in pregame pep talks to stir emotions to a sudden peak. I prefer to maintain a gradually increasing level of both achievement and emotions rather than trying to create artificial emotional highs. For every contrived peak you create, there is a subsequent valley. I do not like valleys. Self-control provides emotional stability and fewer valleys. Wooden continues on later on. He says, in the many years before we won a championship, I overcame disappointment by not living in the past. To do better in the future, you have to work on the right now. Dwelling in the past prevents doing something in the present. Complaining, whining, making excuses just keeps you out of the present. That's where self-control comes in. Self-control keeps you in the present. So strive to maintain self-control. So this is straight up stoicism by Wooden. When your pack feels heavy at mile 8, your brain wants to quit. That is emotion. Wooden wants control. He doesn't want you spiking in emotion, high or low. He wants you steady. So a Wooden-trained rucker doesn't get rattled by heat, rain, soreness, fatigue, slow splits, other people's paces, or the terrain. He stays in the moment. He works the problem and moves forward. Lesson 8. Character over reputation. This is a kind of short one. He says, be more concerned with your character than your reputation. Character is what you really are. Reputation is what people say you are. Reputation is often based on character, but not always. So character is who you are at mile 10. Reputation is the edited version on Instagram. A Wooden rucker trains quietly, consistently, without external validation. Your character is how you train when no one sees you. Your character is whether you finish the plan you set. Your character is whether you show up even when you're discouraged. Wooden would teach you to build character under the weight of your pack. Okay, before moving on to the last 3 of Wooden's lessons I'm going to discuss today, I want to take a quick break to say thanks for listening to the podcast. Please text this episode with a fellow rucker that might find it interesting or a friend that could benefit from rucking. Sharing this episode would help the show grow and help more people improve their health and lives. Okay, back to it. All right, home stretch. Let's do these last 3. And they're all kind of grouped together. In the book, Wooden goes over 8 suggestions for succeeding. So these last 3 are handpicked out of this 8. So I'm just going to run through the 8 right now, and then we'll dive deeper into the 3 that I selected. The 8 suggestions are, number 1, fear no opponent, respect every opponent. Number 2, remember it's the perfection of the smallest details that make big things happen. We kind of went over that one earlier. Number 3, keep in mind that hustle makes up for many a mistake. Number 4, be more interested in character than reputation. Number 5, be quick but don't hurry. Number 6, understand that the harder you work, the more luck you will have. Number 7, Know that valid self-analysis is crucial for improvement. And lastly, number 8, remember there is no substitute for hard work and careful planning. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. You may have noticed that I touched on a few of those in previous lessons. And I touched on those before because he goes into much greater detail on those in the book than these last 3. But these last 3 are still very crucial and important. And those 3 are hustle makes up for mistakes, be quick but don't hurry, and failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Okay, so let's talk about lesson 9, hustle makes up for many mistakes. This is Whine saying you don't need to be perfect, you need to be intent. If you're a new rucker, you don't need perfect gait mechanics. You don't need elite VO2 max. You don't need ultra runner conditioning. You need hustle. You need to show up. You need to finish your route and keep moving when it gets hard. Just get a little further than you did yesterday. Every effort compounds. Lesson 10, be quick but don't hurry. This directly correlates to pace control. Being quick, that's being efficient. Hurrying, that's getting sloppy. Whine doesn't want you rushing. Rushing breaks form, causes injury. Rushing comes from emotion instead of preparation. He wants you smooth, calm, focused, and in control. A rucker who is quick but not hurried is sustainable. And sustainability beats intensity every time. And that brings us to the last one. Lesson 11, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Whine was a preparation machine. He planned practices down to the minute. He logged everything. He reviewed everything. This is exactly what separates the average rucker from the high performer. You plan your weekly mileage. You plan your weight progression, your hydration, recovery, nutrition. You prepare for the weather. You prepare your gear. A good ruck begins 24 hours before you even step outside. All right, so that's it. Those are the 11 lessons that I pulled from the book, Whine, A Lifetime of Observations and Reflections on and Off the Court. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to go and buy it and check it out. I highly suggest you do. There is so much more helpful and useful information in the book that I didn't cover on here. It's littered with just phenomenal insight into his philosophy on coaching and parenting. If you're a parent, excellent resource for parents in there. I highly suggest you check it out. But that was it. And so just real quick, I'll do a rundown of all the lessons. Number 1, don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses. Number 2, success is doing your best to become your best. Number 3, the journey is the end. Learn to love the process. Number 4, details create success. Number 5, intentness. Number 6, never fear failure. It's the only route to success. Number 7, self-control creates peak performance. Number 8, character over reputation. Number 9, hustle makes up for many mistakes. Number 10, be quick but don't hurry. And lastly, number 11, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Okay, so that's it for today. If you want to reach out to me, head on over to theruckersedge.com or on Instagram at theruckersedgepod. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow or subscribe to the show so that you're notified when I drop new episodes. And lastly, really appreciate you listening in. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Rucker's Edge.